Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Atef Abou Merhi. Atef's family has a shipping background. He was born in Lebanon. He has a wife and 2 boys, 6 and 9 years old. Actually, angels or gangsters?
Devils, yeah.
Devils, okay. Well, I thought so. Knowing you now, I thought so. That's cool. You're living in Beirut and in Cyprus, and you're working mainly from Cyprus, but going back and forth. And when you were a few months old, Atef, you went to Germany. And I think it's fair to say, because he lived for 12 years in Hamburg, my hometown, that the foundation of your success, your today's success, was laid actually in Germany. And I'm a little bit proud of that. School and high school in Beirut, undergraduate in the UK, MBA in Madrid. Yeah. You met Niels Hartmann in 2017, and the two of you then decided at that time or shortly thereafter to do something together.
That's true.
And nowadays, we can welcome you as the co-founder and managing director of Pelagic Partners. And everyone in this room, except for me probably, will know what pelagic and what the pelagic zone is. The pelagic zone is the, if you want so, what a pity the French don't have a word for pendant. It is the equivalent to the air column, which is above of us. It is from the surface of the ocean until the seabed. That is the zone, the whole water column from the surface to the bottom. And I wonder, actually, can you start telling me why Pelagic Partners and how come?
Yeah, I mean, people, when they hear the name Pelagic, they think there was a lot of, or a story behind it, but actually it was our thinking, along with our PR management in that sense, that the pelagic zone, besides that it sounds very good, it has a nice ring to the tone. The pelagic zone is basically what you just mentioned, everything that is from the surface of the water all the way down. And our business philosophy, which we will talk about in a bit, contains investments into shipping in all various segments in the shipping space. So basically, we're not in a certain niche. We just go where the flow is, and this is what makes us really pelagic in that sense. So it could be investing into something, one day it's tankers, the other day it's offshore, and so on. And pelagic is that, basically. You have different zones and different fish swimming in different zones, and this is what we are.
Okay, so tell us in a nutshell, before we dive into the different segments, what are you investing in and what are you doing as Pelagic Partners?
So as a brief introduction and in a nutshell, Pelagic Partners is a ship-owning fund, and I'm referring to ship-owning/fund because of the main reason that we're a bit separate than, or a bit set up, our setup is a bit different than a regular fund. There is a very strong and long ship-owning history coming into Pelagic, whether it's from Niels Hartmann as a co-founder from the Hartmann Group or myself. And then the idea was from ourselves as private ship owners that we wanted to build on this long years of experience and open up to investors. And there's basically few approaches to do that. One is to go public, which for a reason or another we didn't do. The other is to raise equity on project basis, which is then you don't really build a relation with your investor because it's just project per se. And the idea for us was to set up an investment company/fund and put our equity first into the fund. So this is our ship owning mentality in a way. It's not just purely raising money and manage third-party money. Put our money in, have a vision for Pelagic Partners and let investors join us. And this is what we have been doing. So we have various compartments where we are, as ship owners, invested into this, and investors are joining on compartment level, and there is a full alignment. There's no related party transactions. It's more driven that our own money, along with investors, they join the ride together.
I see, and that is compartment one is oil and gas, if I may say so.
Yeah.
And there is a second one which has to do with PSVs. We are going to come to that. And then there's going to be wind as well.
So that's the offshore part, because today we're focusing on the offshore.
Yes,
but
exactly.
besides that, we have tankers, bulk carriers, we have done gas carriers.
I just wanted to briefly mention that as well. So there is a full range, if you want so.
Yeah.
It's not the full market segments, but many of them you are.
Yeah, so since we started, so Pelagic Partners started in 2020. Since then, we have invested in all the mainstream shipping segments, except for container, because we didn't get the timing right. But we really, and all the investments that we have done under Pelagic Partners, they are somehow, we have the experience from the 40 years as owners into that. So there's nothing that we haven't invested in now that we don't have a deep understanding with from us as founders.
But let's concentrate on the offshore market right now. Oil and gas. What are you doing there? And I understand that's an investment in a listed entity which operates certain PSVs, but tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah. So on the offshore, we found that there is a very interesting segment, especially in the PSV side, and we have tried to get our entry point for the past 2 years. So we had various deal flows looking at how to enter that segment, and it never really came to place because of various reasons. We wanted a more agile approach to it, and then last summer, basically, we have been approached by Oaktree back then, who just had done a great move on Golden Energy Offshore, which is a public listed entity in the Euronext Growth in Oslo. They have acquired the Vroon vessels, which is the PX 121 vessels. And so for us, when we got approached and Oaktree asked us to join on a private placement, get into Golden Energy and get a board seat, we went directly ahead with it for various reasons. One, there was a good discount. Two, the PX 121 vessels that were bought from Vroon are also coherent to the vessels that were owned by Golden Energy Offshore as a company.
Yes.
And so there was, and besides on that, Golden Energy Offshore has a long history of trading on the Oslo stock, and as a management, they do a fantastic job in managing those vessels. So we found that it's a good place. Why we have entered? So we got there. We control almost 25% of the company and have a board seat. By now, Oaktree have exited. This doesn't give any bad reflection on the company per se, because everyone has their own calculations and political assumptions. Blue Ocean Partners took over recently, and there's always a seller, there's always a buyer that is finding value, and we agree with Blue Ocean Partners on the value they have for the company as well going forward. So going forward, the company is focused on, we are a pure play PSV company now. We focus on growing or making sure that the assets we have in place are being handled properly. We have a very strong backlog coming in, period charters. So we are focusing on long-term charters mainly, keeping one vessel on the spot market, but then trying really to get this cash flow position into the space. After the summer, we are contemplating to make an uplisting to the main Oslo Börs, just to get a bit more view on the company and to get it more investor friendly per se, in that sense. So this was a great entry point for us into the PSV space, and now we are just looking forward to growing the company, whether it's on cleaning up the balance sheet, getting in a good cash flow, pay out some dividends, and grow it on assets, whether it's on managing other vessels or growing the assets of the company as well.
Sounds like you are a pretty active, dynamic investor in a company like this, not playing a role in.
We don't do passive investments. No. If we do investments, it has to be with certain control, and we want to see what's happening. So we don't want to wake up and just get a report. We want to be the people making the reports in our companies, at least.
But then I heard from you, and I read that you also have an involvement in 2 PSVs which are operated by Borealis, and there is a kind of cooperation on that. First, briefly, what is this? And secondly, how does this match? Aren't you in conflict with the other PSVs, or any plans on that?
Yeah, there's no conflict per se, mainly because the Borealis vessels, the 2 vessels that we are co-owning now with Borealis, are the the ex-Viking supply vessels, which are the Wärtsilä VS designs. And these vessels were off-market, so it's not that if we didn't go into it, Golden Energy Offshore would have done it. They were projects controlled by Borealis because they were co-owners with Viking Supply. Viking Supply took their option to exit for various reasons. And this is where we went ahead and co-invested with Borealis. And our thinking basically was a bit different than what we have done with GEOS, because here there wasn't a discount. There were pricey assets, but we have looked into them as a very modern eco vessels. They're 2021 built vessels, which is one of the most modern vessels you will get here. Ice class, dual fuel, and they had a. We were a bit concerned on the asset price, but they have a very long-term employment. One of them is on a 4-year firm charter. The other one we are currently fixing on a similar long-term employment. So for us, it was more a cash flow approach on the vessels, with very good partners, Borealis, which we know for as well on other projects. And the asset itself, at exit, we don't believe there will be a big drop in asset value given the specs that I've just mentioned and the modern. We will talk about the outlook of PSVs in a bit. But we also don't believe there will be a harsh depreciation, especially where the new building prices are currently.
Okay. Moving on to the wind side of your business, what is your activity or your investment compartment? What is it doing? What are your...
Yeah, so we wanted to spread our wings, let's say, on the offshore side. And we had a strong belief in the wind offshore space as well, on the CSOV space. So in 2022, we were doing analytical studies if we should go into that market, and the decision given where we see this market going, and we will go into the details of it a bit later, we have decided to place an order of 2 + 4 CSOVs in Cochin, India, after a long due diligence process that we have made in finding the yard and the process. So we have set up Pelagic Wind Fund. And Pelagic Wind Fund is actually the only fund under Pelagic Partners that does not have any third-party investors. So it's purely Niels Hartmann and myself. Why? Is because all the roadshows that we have done so far, investors were a bit skeptical. They wanted to see cash flow. They wanted to see employment. And for us being ship owners, and this is the specialty that we have probably compared to other funds, we just believed in it. And we said, okay, if investors are not feeling comfortable doing it today, we will do it on our own. So we went ahead, we placed the orders. We're doing the new building supervision, and once the vessels are in the water and we get employments, then probably we open up to investors again at a probably higher price than at the beginning. But this is what you need to have faith and go ahead with something that you believe in. So we have the orders. The 2 firm vessels will be delivered next year. And we are currently in lucrative tender discussions to get them employed for a good period. And then, yeah, probably we see what the market will bring in case we take further options, or we do second-hand acquisitions, or we just stay at 2 vessels.
So that's one of the characteristics, right? In this wind offshore market, you have very good counterparty risk.
Yep.
However, this counterparty risk is just starting to get used to the idea that they're also giving a forward time charter 1 or 2 years in advance. And you say you're now negotiating the time charter parties for, or the whatever employment contracts for 1 year from now.
Yeah, we have seen the dynamics change from instance where at the beginning vessels were taken on 3 months, 4 months, and that's it, to the point where CSOVs are being fixed 1 year before delivery. So we have seen competition vessels being fixed 1 year in advance. Our vessels will be delivered a bit above a year, and we already are taking part of tenders. So vessels are being fixed in advance. They are fixed, instead of 3 or 4 months, they're being fixed for 1 year, 2 year, 3 years. So we see that the dynamics are changing, and the counterparties, they're just willing to take that risk now, and taking a vessel that might have some idle time on their books, but it's better for them than not having any vessels at all for the time being.
which brings us to the market outlook in the offshore industry, actually. And where would you recommend me to invest in and put my small, very small possibilities in and let it work? Is it more the oil and gas market, or is it more the wind market? What would you say? And where do you see as Pelagic Partners the market?
Yeah, we're invested in both.
Yes.
So this means that we see positives on both ends. But I think both are going into a long, strong cycle. However, we believe that the oil and gas part is going more into a supply-driven cycle, while the offshore wind is going into a demand-driven cycle. So even though they're both into under offshore, but I think they're a bit different dynamics. So if you focus on oil and gas, and then in specific PSVs, it's the order book is at a 30-year low, probably 2 to 3% on medium to large PSVs, and even these 2 to 3%, they're probably vessels that were ordered back in 2013, 2014, haven't been delivered yet. So there is a supply-driven approach to that instance. Now, in terms of shipyards, there is limited capacity, probably probably 10, 12 yards being able to accommodate that the orders today. So even though we have seen some orders recently over the past few days, but it would take a bit of time until the party is a bit spoiled on that supply side. So accommodating the supply crunch on the PSVs, demand is there as well. It's supporting. Utilization of PSVs along with oil rigs is probably at 85% plus. Oil production is at history high, 103 million barrels, of which 25% is offshore from this 103 million, and they are all deep sea offshore. So here probably this will help for the demand of the PSVs. So why that is important is that even though we are at the high end of the demand, if we get a dump in the demand because of oil price drop or whatever, probably we will not have a bloodbath like we had in 2014, 2015, given the low order book that we are currently having. But having said that, I would still put my money on modern eco vessels like we have done on the Borealis vessels as well, and the Vroon vessels that was acquired through GEOS are also amongst the modern vessels. Because once something will happen, these should be the least vessels that will drop in value at that point. While if you come on the wind offshore side, it's a demand-driven story, not really a supply. The demand, I mean, currently we're having 73, 74 gigawatts of wind offshore being supplied or produced or used, which is barely 0.4, 0.5% of the global energy mix. This will more than double or probably double in the next 2-3 years, and more than triple by 2030. So, and when I say double and triple, this is not just hoping. These are projects that are in place and are executed, whether are with governments, and tenders are being given out on that instance. So the demand is there, and it's all coupled with the energy transition that should happen. Now we could argue with all the negative sentiments that have happened over the past year that some projects get delayed, some projects get canceled, but we need to, if you just stop this noise and take a step back and look at the bigger picture, gigawatts of wind offshore will keep going up, and the energy transition should happen. It's the incentive of countries to do it, just to get more independent on energy. On the supply side, it's a bit hard to say percentage, because you probably would give 100% order book. It's just because it's an emerging market. There's 60 CSOVs or 80 CSOVs, and then probably with a small order book you would have 100%. But compare that to the demand. Hopefully this will be absorbed. However, we see a lot of companies sitting with 1-2 vessels, including us. So probably consolidation going forward in the CSOV space could be very, very, very interesting, and this could be more attractive for you to put your money in.
How can I invest? Can I invest as an investor in the fund, in your funds?
Yeah, and the compartment. So for us, it's on a compartment level, not project basis.
Yes.
And yes, there are certain restrictions, like a minimum of $1 million ticket and a 5-year lockup period. So if other than those restrictions, everybody is welcome to come in, obviously.
Thank you. That kicks me out immediately. Well done. We are going to close this session with very short questions, and you are only allowed to answer with a single word. Okay, let's give it a try. Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Well done. Just to be sure, soccer or tennis?
Soccer. Football.
Okay, one word, just remember.
Yeah.
Cat or dog?
Cat.
Well, cat or dog actually is an interesting question to people. It tells you a lot about the character of a person. And I leave you with that food for...
Well, it was dog. 1 year ago, I changed into cat.
Okay. LNG or ammonium?
LNG for the time being.
One word.
Okay.
LNG or methanol?
Methanol.
Methanol or nuclear?
Methanol.
Methanol or battery?
It's one word only, yeah? Because are we talking about offshore vessels? Okay, methanol.
Good.
Methanol.
Thank you.
Because our vessels are powered methanol, so that's fine.
Good. Difficult to control the guy, ladies and gentlemen. Coming to the offshore sector, oil and gas or wind?
Wind.
Europe or US?
Europe.
And new buildings, Asia or Europe?
Asia.
India, China, Japan or Korea?
Japan.
And in principle, new buildings or second-hand?
Second-hand.
Good. So we heard a lot about, ladies and gentlemen. He's a cat-loving, second-hand loving father of 2 kids. It was very nice talking to you and getting to know you. And you will see him back on stage tomorrow or the day after. He will be there.
Wednesday morning.
Atef, Abou, Merhi. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.